everyone. My name is Ilan Leiferman. I'm the cybersecurity startup business development lead here at AWS. So working primarily with cybersecurity startups, and today we're going to be talking about how we at AWS support cyber startups to grow, scale, and go to market together with AWS. So agenda for the session, we're going to be talking about primarily why startups pick and choose AWS. What is the startup journey? How do we support startups throughout their different stages? What is the go-to-market flywheel, working and doing co-sell motions with AWS? And a little bit more about differentiated programs that we're doing specifically for this vertical. And lastly, I'll share some tips about how to think about partnering up with AWS. Okay, so AWS Startups is the organization I'm part of. It's the segment that supports startups from the very early stage all the way to scale. We're a team of former founders, operators in the startup world. We have in the team, like at any given time, our customers will be interacting with account managers, with solutions architects, with partner development managers, and as well as me as a business development. So we think about, very holistically about supporting customers from an infrastructure perspective with solutions architects and account managers, but also beyond infrastructure, generating business opportunities for them. So we typically think about this startup journey. So really starting very early. So for example, myself, I work very closely with the VC community. So even startups that are on stealth, trying to think about the next big idea, we help them both to get the funding. We help them also with the activate credits to accelerate their journey in the cloud. We have a lot of hands-on support as they get their initial steps. We help them with design partners all the way to growth stage. So think about AWS Marketplace. We're going to speak about that later. We see big trend of early stage startups deciding to set on and sell through the marketplace early on, all the way to scale. So for example, we see here Wiz, this is a company that started with us, went through all the journey, and now they are on a scale velocity. Forgot to mention I'm based out of Tel Aviv, so although it's a global perspective and scope, I'm based out of Tel Aviv, basically. So according to Adam Selipsky, latest quote in reInvent last year, there are over 1,000 unicorns in the world. 83% of them are running on AWS, which is pretty incredible, and we're really, really proud of this number and of working with so many incredible startups. So think about any of the large, big startups here. We put a combination of some cybersecurity companies. Cider, which is a company that we help them from 0 to 10. They got acquired recently by Palo Alto Networks. Dig Security, AA21, which is going to be on the Bedrock, one of the language models for Bedrock. So you see here a combination of cyber and non-cyber, but we're really proud of the customers that are depositing their confidence in us. But why in particular cyber startups would choose working with AWS? And this is, think about it beyond infrastructure. Okay, let's assume that we have all the cloud services needed, right, from compute, storage, database, and whatnot. But let's think about what startups need beyond infrastructure. So on the one hand, they want to accelerate the growth. So as I said, we can give them credits. We'll give them credits. We'll help them build the right architecture. But we're also going to help them get to market faster. We're going to help them with the pattern recognition that every single one of our team members have had working with hundreds of startups. We have programs to help them not to make certain mistakes. We have programs for them to accelerate the access to market and meet potential customers early on. On the other hand, expertise, as I mentioned, pick a topic, whether it's business, technical, databases, cyber, CISO related topic. We are going to have experts for any of those founders and any of those technical teams. So we have expertise. We've been working, as I said before, working with 83% of the unicorns. We've seen many of those things happen over and over again. So we have that expertise at home. And then the scale. Like, I think when a startup founder decides which cloud to build, they need to think where are their customers hosted. And primarily when we speak with cyber customers, they tell us that their end customers, for the most part, they're building on AWS. So it just makes sense for them to be within the same environment. Now, what is building we always talk about building a better together story. What is that better together? I mean, there's no partnership if it's only one way street, right? So we think about partnering with startups in a way that they can augment the value proposition when they build on top of AWS. And that goes beyond just spinning up some EC2s and having the storage, but it's about co-build. Okay, so if we think about security, right? For example, we take the example of the CSPM, of the Cloud Security Posture Management. How can they integrate natively with AWS services so that they have also the telemetry and they have also the detection from guard duty, from inspector, from detective? Okay, so it's about how can those startups build more robust value propositions and products when they have this native integration? For example, another good example is, we've seen security being a graph in the last couple of years, like thinking about context in security. So we see more and more startups leveraging AWS Neptune database, right, or graph database that is a managed service that basically can help startups to show that context for their customers. So that's on the co-build. So really an engineering effort to integrate. Then it's about co-market, right? So whenever we have those integrations in place, think about AWS teams can accelerate, can bring PR, can bring AWS blog posts, can help you create more visibility and credibility around our summits, our AWS events. So we like to spin that flywheel and really generate demand together. So the moment we have those integrations and then a startup becomes a launch partner of a specific service for reInvent, then we can help them also to generate new leads and go to market together. And then lastly, co-sell, right? We've been, I think, improving dramatically over the last couple of years around how we think programmatically about letting our startups accelerate the pipeline, the commercial pipeline, on top of AWS. And those are the co-sell programs that we offer. I'll speak a little bit more about it in a second. So, as I said, I mean, when we talk about partnership, if we have all these layers of integration from a product level, we have the better together story, the narrative of how 1 + 1 offers a superior experience, then it's all about going to market. It's all about getting the leads. It's all about closing those transactions. And so we have, with our partners that leverage the co-sell program, we have a tool, a mechanism called ACE, which is essentially a shared CRM where you would bring your opportunities, your pipeline through ACE, okay, those startup partners that will tell us, hey, we are in negotiation with A, B, C, D company, and that will automatically prompt an email and a notification to the account manager from AWS from that large enterprise customer, and we'll go on a call together. We'll try to understand and map out what are the opportunities and how can we help them sell more efficiently to that stakeholder. What are the consumer behaviors, the purchase behavior from that end customer, and so we help them add another layer of information so that their success rate in closing those deals is higher. And then on top of that, they can sell on AWS Marketplace. The moment they sell through AWS Marketplace, they're also benefiting from a lot of economic benefits that the enterprise. So think about an enterprise. They have a commitment, a multi-year commitment with AWS. Whatever software from a vendor, from a startup that they procure through AWS Marketplace, that will go against their commitment. So it's a win-win situation. We created all these mechanisms so then selling through AWS Marketplace will have a significant value add for both the vendor and the end customer. So that's about our co-sell. But then also we think about programs and things that we can add new layers of value. So for example, thought leadership, right? We want our customers to speak about the innovation that they bring into market. So whether it's collaborating with AWS CISO office to put thought leader paperwork together, presenting in different events, we want to bring the best and the greatest innovation that is happening in security and bring the AWS credibility and stamp of approval and present it to the world. So we help our customers do that. We do work with the venture capital community, with CISO communities, so that we provide access to potential customers. We help them, engage with their markets to hear, get feedback from CISOs and buyers early on, so that they can fine-tune their solution, the value proposition as they grow. Then another program that we launched recently, Reinforce, it's called Matchmaking Program. And so this is a program that essentially helps any of our priority security startups meet with dozens of AWS security leaders, connect with them, do those integrations, come into our events and to reinforce, reinvent our summits, and really increase the touch surface within AWS. We are based out of Tel Aviv. We have colleagues in San Francisco, in New York, in Bangalore, wherever you name it. But we have these opportunities of leveraging these large conferences and where we have all our leadership to accelerate their path to integration, their path to collaboration with us. So we are running those programs of matchmaking. So if anyone's interested in that, please let us know. And then events and networking. So really generating and keeping always on and keeping our platform of AWS open for VCs, for community, for security community players and so on to help our startups get their name out. And maybe I'll finish with some concrete tips that I've been thinking through of, hey, how can we, okay, I'm a founder, I need to think about, up until now I only thought about AWS as a cloud vendor, but tomorrow, this, whether it's because of this conference, of this presentation, or speaking to other partners, but tomorrow I want to kind of start leveraging the full potential of AWS beyond infrastructure. So first and foremost, I'll say you should think about AWS from a very holistic standpoint, right? So again, from a marketing, product, co-sell, if you're in cloud, if you're an infrastructure player like most cybersecurity and cloud security companies, don't think in silos and say, hey, I'll call them whenever I need to transact on the marketplace. No, think about your product, how it will serve better customers if you build it, if you integrate with specific services, how your solution, your API solution, security API, sits on top of AWS WAF. Okay, think about holistically how can you embed the best of AWS into your startup, so then you get that multiplier effect. Second, fine-tune your better together story. This is an iteration process. This is not a clear 1 + 1 = 3. We need to go to market together. We need to find what is that better together story. And so once we get that, both for end customers and for internal AWS customers, I think that becomes very powerful for startups. Leverage your account team. So those account managers, solutions architects, we say and we claim that we're customer obsessed. Please prove us, right? Just ask whatever you might need. You'll find 10 times out of times, for the most part, a yes from the account teams, from the solutions architect. Bring your problems, your key questions that you might have to any of us. And then go step by step. I mean, we are, as much as we want to help every single startup around the world, we're getting better together with you guys. And so it takes time to really crack the code of the right partnership. So let's be patient, let's iterate, let's learn, and let's continuously kind of evolve in that lean journey from a startup. And make sure that you have the C-suite of your company bought in and they understand the power of a partnership with AWS. Then I think we hear more and more companies asking us, hey, help us with this other opportunity, but it's all about sharing and establishing that trust level where your sales representatives can share the pipeline back to us, and we can really have that level of trust where the information will flow from one place to another. And lastly, increase your footprint. I mean, your account team are 2-3 people in your local office, but come to these conferences, get to meet with our leaders, because there are plenty of opportunities around the world and around different size of organizations where AWS will probably have an expert, will have different teams that can help you get to that end customer. So I'll just close with the last slide, just referencing Colin Jones, who's the CRO of Wiz, that talked about that co-sell motion with AWS resulted in 30% shorter sales cycle and a 10% higher TCV. Okay, and so I think those are meaningful numbers, especially for a startup. They want to shorten that sales cycle and increase that TCV. So thank you all, and hope you had a great Reinforce. Thank you, guys.